1827, Beethoven died. And in 1828, Schubert died. Now, Mendelssohn, at that time, was 19 years old. And Mendelssohn, by the time he was 19, he'd already composed the octet, which he wrote when he was 16. So he was quite an incredible composer. And he was also acutely aware of the past. Later in life, he became the guy that resurrected Bach. Bach was basically disappeared composer. In 1825, if you had asked somebody who Bach was, they probably wouldn't have known. They probably would have known who Telemann was, which is very funny now. I mean, it's kind of the reverse. And so when Mendelssohn heard about the death of Beethoven, he started writing this quartet. And it was fraught with just tragedy and pathos and the height of everything. And in the midst of writing it, then Schubert died and he heard about it. And it just totally affected him. Actually, in the last quartet of Beethoven, there's a theme. And that's Muss es sein. Must it be? And then it's answered by it must be. And that's what and he actually wrote the words in the music. Beethoven did. And this quartet in the last movement, which you're not going to hear, has a very similar passage. We're going to play the third and the first movement of the Mendelssohn A minor quartet on instruments by Douglas Cox. Doug, a friend of mine described him, he went to watch him work. And David Meyer, who we also have a couple of instruments by him, he said, he put a piece of maple on the bench, and he drew a couple lines, and then he went, and all these chips flew everywhere, and then there was a scroll. I mean, it was the most incredible thing he'd ever seen. This guy is one of the most facile makers in the world, and he has a touch with acoustics that is really unique. And I love his work. The players love it, and it's just very interesting. This is the first time we've seen one of his cellos, and this is the first time our quartet has ever performed together. That puts you in perspective. We have kind of this thing, Carl and I are the old longtime friends. We started this little chamber music thing about 5 years ago. Yeah. And it kind of was grown into doing it, and then all of a sudden we got kind of a serious group that grew out of it. Bill Wolcott is our first violinist. He's a local teacher, great player. Alan, former Whole Foods employee, is our sales manager. Knows everything about everything that's in this shop. And Sophia recently moved back to Omaha. She went to Oberlin, undergraduate, and then went to Lincoln and did a master's, ended up back in Cleveland, and then is now back here, freelancing, and we're just really glad that she's here. And so, and the violin comes in. Tom's brought his violin after all. So the third and then the first movement of the Mendelssohn, we couldn't do the first, and also I got to tell you, as a violist, you wait for those moments, and the end of the first movement is one of those moments you can listen for the violist. We don't get too many, moments.